You know that saying where it's like, you're one decision away from completely changing your life, right? What if, like, consistently after the decision that was made that changed your life, you also made even more decisions that further changed your life? Like, drastically, right? It's always fascinating to me just how things can work like that, right? So, when you're stuck on autopilot and you forget to wake up, right? That's what this is all about, right? Because if you're one decision away from drastically, totally changing your life, then the contrast of that, the opposite of that, has to be being stuck on autopilot, right? Because autopilot is really just the same thing of comfort and familiarity, right? Being buried under patterns that were from childhood that limit a person's capacity to do and be better for themselves, right? I always, maybe not always, but I've often heard you're one decision away from completely changing your life, right? And I'm now thinking about it, and it's like, okay, well, if I'm one decision away from completely changing my life, and that decision is B instead of A, right? But then I consistently continue doing that, like, how much could I change my life? Now, what I think about is, okay, well, maybe it's just the amount of time that I would be stuck in autopilot forgetting to wake up, right? And waking up means letting go of shame and guilt and choosing to do something different, right? Because, of course, I'd have to do something different in order to totally change my life, because I couldn't continue doing the same thing, because that wouldn't result in a different direction. So I have fun with this and I think about it, and it's like, okay, well, if what's required to totally change my life is to let go of shame, right? Then I can't go back to sleep and forget and live inside the illusion that I am of shame, because that would go against the necessary behavioral change, which would lead me down a different course. So really what this has to do with, to a very large degree, stepping out of autopilot, stepping out of the program, all of the beliefs and feelings and behavioral patterns that came with childhood, right? I just I remember when I first got into personal and spiritual growth and everything, and I was all about like the motivation and the inspiration. I kind of got tired of that after a while, and I understand if, you know, what I say here motivates and inspires people, and I'm grateful for that. I'm totally validating that. But it's just, it's fascinating to me how I personally believe, based on everything I've learned, that if a person really wants to change their life, they've got to go to the roots of everything, and the roots is the trauma. You know, trauma really fucks a person up, and that's what this is really all about. You're one decision away from changing your life, right? From not just changing your life, from totally changing your life, right? Um, I personally think that waking up is all about getting at the root of everything, right? And from, again, from what I've experienced and what I've learned, getting at the root of everything is all about really looking at yourself and your childhood and all of the ways in which you were traumatized. It's wild because, like, when I look at my own childhood and all the ways that I was traumatized, I see clearly all of the patterns, all of the thinking, feeling, and behaving patterns that I carry out to this day. And it goes back to that same idea of you are one decision away from totally changing your life, right? And that decision could be choosing to set a boundary and not taking on somebody's energy, because then all of a sudden you have energy for yourself to actually create something different in your life. And that's the kind of thing that it does. But like, again, even with that, it's like, okay, well then the next thing after that is to actually take it further and further and further and just continue choosing what you otherwise wouldn't, right? It's like, well, once you've not taken on that person's energy, now you've got to choose something else after that. And that something else that you choose is actually believing in yourself and setting boundaries with people, because then you free up so much time and energy to actually bring back to yourself that you would otherwise be focusing on and tuning into other people, right? It's fascinating to me. So I do believe that I am always one decision away from totally changing my life, and I would say that, I wake up and find it happening more and more, which is very exciting. I don't think it's bullshit. I think it's awesome. And I do think that it requires waking up from autopilot consistently. I really do. Which might just be a belief, but it can be challenging. It can be challenging to wake up from autopilot. Autopilot is very seductive. The comfort and familiarity of what is known is very seductive, It can really keep a person trapped inside a very specific way of living. It can. But it's fun, that's the fun of life. Like, you're one decision away from totally changing your life. Oh, let's try it. Like yeah, let's do it. Give me the remote control. Give me Ready Player One. It's just fun.